So we're now going from Wales over to the east coast of America to Boston. We actually have 3 speakers. The first speaker is Sriman Syamarupa Prabhu, and then we'll have his wife, Srimati Shamali Didi, and interspersed within all of that, we're going to have Cheeky the parrot. They've got this incredible parrot. I'm not quite sure who the boss is. I think the parrot may be the boss. And Cheeky the parrot, you'll hear this squawking from time to time. And apparently they told me, and this is, if anyone knows Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, this is a really hilarious kind of Woody Allen, Mr. Bean scenario, where apparently when Cheeky met Tridandi Maharaj, Cheeky chased Tridandi Maharaj around the house, which I wish I had been there to see. That is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. So, Syamarupa, you speaking first?
Yes, yes.
So, Syamarupa met the devotees in 1992, and he's highly involved in the prison newsletter program, giving hope and mercy for people who've gone to prison and coming both in prison, coming out of prison. And he's also has initiated and manages a whole number of online bhakti programs. And his wife Shamli met Gurudeva in 2007 and took initiation in 2010. So I'm very eager to hear their sharing. So Syamarupa will go first, and then his wife Shamli. Welcome to our program, and thank you for sharing with us on this our first program of 2021. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So just to make sure I don't overstay my welcome, how long would you like for me to speak for? What's the time frame?
So we're at 10 to 2 our time, which is 10 to 9 your time. So if you go to about 10 past, 9 your time,
okay,
and then Shamli do another 20 minutes, and then we're done.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Om Agyanatamanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangom Nagayate Girim Yakri Patamaham Vande Shri Gurudini Taranam Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripasindhivya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyapane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Namane. So I'd like to first offer my humble Dandavat pranams to our beloved Srila Gurudeva, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, who's very dear to Srimati Radharani, and Srimati Radharani is very dear to him. I'd also like to offer my obeisances to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and also to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as well as Srila Bhakti Pragankesha Maharaj. So yesterday we celebrated the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And I know in India today, they've also been celebrating. So, of course, having never met either Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, we associate with these personalities through their books and through those who actually knew them. So in the same way, I had very little association with Srila Gurudeva. I've never, my association with Gurudeva was really through his devotees and through his books. I had first met the devotees of Krishna consciousness in 1986. I was in Chicago working in the same neighborhood as the temple. And during that time, when I was living in Chicago to when I moved to Boston in 92, of course, it was a wonderful experience. The devotees there were very kind, but they did not have a very positive view of the Gaudiya month. So unfortunately, I had not really availed myself Although I heard that at that time, senior members of the ISKCON leadership were going to Gurudev to hear about higher topics. And this was met with a bit of a mixed reaction. So, but before I moved back to Boston, I was told that in Boston there were some nice devotees. One devotee was, I think, working on his doctorate at Harvard. And so I met these devotees during the Ratha Yatra in '92. And the wife, I forget the Mataji's name, so please forgive me if you're hearing this. I've forgotten your name, but she was extolling Srila Gurudev, his relationship with Srila Prabhupada, how Prabhupada regarded Gurudev like a son. Although Srila Gurudev saw Srila Prabhupada as like a guru, Prabhupada treated him with more of a friendly friendship type of mood. And years later, when I was at New York Ratha Yatra, it was an ISKCON event, but Gurudev a devotee had a table, maybe kind of unofficially. And he was, at that time, this was like mid-90s. So the publications of Gurudev were not like we see today with beautiful layouts and beautiful covers and just designed so exquisitely. The layout was very simple. It was just simply a solid blue color or solid green cover with just a title imprinted with a gold stamp. But the content was really wonderful. Like I had Bhakti Rasayan or the Syamarupa, Shikshastikam. So these books were very simple, but you read them and it was just so clear. But I also felt at that time that they were beyond my scope to really appreciate. But I kept them thinking, I will read these someday. But as time went on, I got to know more and more of Gurudev's disciples. Kishore Krishna Prabhu, who was a devotee in Boston, who was responsible for the initial websites, PureBhakti.com, Harikatha.com. He built and maintained these websites for Gurudev. And also Nimai Chaitanya Prabhu. So even though I had accepted initiation within ISKCON, my guru gave me full blessings to hear from Gurudev when I had ultimately had cultivated a desire to meet Gurudev. Also, eventually, of course, my relationship with Gurudev was really solidified when I found a Jaiva Dharma. In a local coffee shop in Boston, they had a shelf where people could leave books and take books. You know, it was one of these type of things. And there was Gurudev's Jaiva Dharma. And I've been wanting to read Jaiva Dharma, but I had not found a translation that I felt I could really connect with and that made sense because the philosophical content is very dense. But Gurudev's Jaiva Dharma to me was just so beautifully edited and so beautifully stated that I realized that this was a person who really understood our Siddhanta completely. So I went to India eventually in 2007. Is when I actually had darshan directly of Gurudev. But even then, that was of a distance. I tend to move very slowly in my Krishna conscious life. I met the devotees in '86, but didn't accept initiation until 2005. And even then, second initiation came in 2014. But eventually, I first was introduced to Gurudev in 2009 in Houston. And my first real interaction and darshan with Gurudev happened in 2010. And I'd like to share a little bit about that because it's one of these moments where it just who Gurudev was and how powerful and yet how compassionate he was came very clear to me. So after the Badger Festival, before Gurudev went, I think, over to Europe for the last part of his tour of the West, he stayed at the devotee's house in Ojai, Krishna Bhamini and Brajesha's home. And there it was a few days after the festival before they went on a plane to Europe. And the program there was very simple. Gurudev just mostly stayed in his room, translating and writing. Occasionally in the morning, every morning, he'd go out for a short walk. And afterwards, there'd be a darshan with the devotees. And so I was in the kitchen prior to one of these morning walks, and we're, cutting up food and making preparations for the devotees. And Krishna Bhamini asked me, she said, "Do you have any questions for Gurudev?" And I said, "I don't really have a specific philosophical question, but I have a doubt in my heart." And I said, "I've been involved with Krishna consciousness for many years. And when we first, for those of us who come to Krishna consciousness during our lifetime, we get this incredible burst of enthusiasm. It's like, falling in love for the first time. We get this intense enthusiasm." And I said, "But over time, you experience many disappointments. And you see sometimes that people, devotees who are so-called senior, sometimes behave in ways that become very disturbing. And I said, over time, enthusiasm diminishes. So how can we hold on to that initial, how can we keep that enthusiasm, and despite, and I had gone through some tense experiences prior to that. So I was still kind of reeling from a number of political fallouts that had gone on. So I was speaking from a very personal place. Like I felt like the wind was taken out of my sail. And I was explaining this to her. Of course, I'm explaining this to Krishna Bhamini, who gone through several intense experiences of her own. And she said, "You must ask this of Gurudev." He said, that's something I think a lot of devotees can resonate with. So I said, okay. Because it was really kind of opening up personally to Gurudev. It wasn't me asking some philosophical question to show how smart or to have some intellectual. It was really about like a very personal thing. So we went on Gurudev for probably a little short walk. And then afterwards, he said, "Does anybody have any questions?" And devotees are sharing different thoughts. And so I said, "Yes, Gurudev, I have a question." And I expressed the same thing to him. I said, initially we have this great enthusiasm, but over time it wanes because we have some harsh dealings. And Gurudev, he was not having any of my pity party. The Guru is both soft like a rose petal, but hard like a thunderbolt. So I got a bit of that thunderbolt purity. And being in Gurudev's presence, his purity it's like a spotlight. If any kind of little spot of dust, any kind of narta, anything, just shines a light on it. And he just looked directly at me. He was speaking to the group, but I just felt like it was just, Gurudev was just boring his eyes were just right into my heart. And he said, "If you've come for bhajan, then nothing will ever disturb you. If you've come for this purpose, then you'll be strong in Krishna consciousness. But if you've come for bhajan for any other reason, you'll become weak. And if you become weak, Maya will overtake you. So why are you looking for problems?" He said, "Never in my life," and he revealed this. He said, "Never in my life have I ever become disturbed. So you should be like that." And so in this way, he was really just taking out and I realized that, yes, my motivation was not pure. And therefore, that's why these weaknesses came to my heart. And I'm in the presence of a person who went through so much in his life to serve the mission of Mahaprabhu. So much he had to put up, not just within his relationship with ISKCON, but also with even his own Gurudev Sangha. How much he had to go through. And he was a person who's traveling the world, for 13, 14 times, something like that. Like so much inconvenience he took up. And I just realized that my problems were just like petty. And I was in the presence of somebody who is so magnanimous. And so everything that I've heard about Gurudev, everything that devotees shared to me with their experiences, everything I read in his books, everything to being so clear that this is where this person was coming from. And so I really appreciate so much when I hear devotees' experiences of Gurudev, because whether it's Prabhupada disciples relating their stories of Prabhupada, or Gurudev's disciples relating the stories of Gurudev, so much of what I want to hear is, one, what did they learn from Gurudev? And two, what was the experience? How did Gurudev transform their lives? Because this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to come and transform our lives in such a way that we'd be eligible candidates to receive this highest bhajan, this highest thing that he wanted to give. That we're reading how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in his final days lamented that he could not give what Mahaprabhu wanted him to give the world, which is Virpalamba Seva and service to the Ashraya Tattva, the mood of separation and service to Srimati Radharani. And Srila Prabhupada also, he wanted to come and give, he gave us the Krishna book. He wanted so much to give us this highest, but he had to cut so many jungles. But the jungles get cut, and Gurudev, he also wanted to give us this valuable gift. Of course, the jungles of our heart have to be cleared first. But Gurudev, I think, for me, what I always took away from my experience with him was that he was always pointing us to the goal. Not that he was saying, okay, you're qualified, you can jump over the fence, but this is the goal. Yes, you have to make yourself qualified. Yes, you have to take up this sadhana and have this proper understanding, but this is the goal. And if you don't have that sense of what the goal is, how can you really proceed in your spiritual life? So I always will carry such a deep appreciation. And I think everybody who is in the line of Gaudiya Sampradaya should appreciate what gift Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami, Srila Gurudeva gave to the world. That clarity and that vision and that focus on what is the goal of our lives. So I, unfortunately, I'm unable to cry for Gurudev because my heart is very hard, but I do have that deep appreciation of how he transformed my life. My world expanded incredibly by just being in his presence, even for that brief moment. They say that even a moment's association with a pure devotee is like a million baths in the Ganga. And I can say that's honestly true. And he looks at you. It isn't like an ordinary vision. So I just want to offer it here. Maybe I think I've gone on maybe a little past my time. So Vanchakalpa Tulubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patidam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Jai Syamarupa, that was beautiful. And Chiki was absolutely on time. You'd almost finished, and it was like she was saying, good job, good job. Her squawk was so loud it nearly gave me a heart, nearly made my heart jump. But when you get a really fine glass and you flick it and the sound is really crystal clear because it's such well cut glass, that is what I felt that your sharing was just now. I really feel like you shared with us the deep vani, the deep intention of Srila Gurudev's mission and heart by mentioning the goal, because that's so important to understand the goal, because we all move with greater purpose if we have a clear goal. And this idea of Gurudev also being never disturbed and telling you never to be disturbed is such an essential part. He always said, step on the head of all your problems. He wanted us to dissolve our problems. And although you didn't use this following word, but I got it from what you said, you always felt safe saying whatever you wanted to Srila Gurudev. Even if he would chastise you, it didn't matter. You knew you were safe with him. So there was always ground below your feet. He was like, in that sense, Shri Guru is like Balaram, with the ground below your feet. So I really treasured hearing your sharing, Prabhu. And I had one quick question for you. When you said that he said never to be disturbed, can you just clarify, did he tell you how never to be disturbed, or he just said never to be disturbed? Okay.
No, basically he was saying that never have I become disturbed.
Right.
Basically saying, be strong like I am.
Beautiful.
Don't give in to this petty weakness of heart. Be strong like I am.
Yes, he'd often say to his female disciples to be very strong, like, you know, like the characters of Mahabharata. And actually, he was quite mischievous. So he'd say, "You're stronger than the ladies are stronger than my men." So yeah, he'd also say that. It was beautiful. Thank you so much.